Old human aristocrat bought a toothless alien girl, then showed her a life without chains asterisk. The spaceport stank of overheated circuitry and desperation. Lord Reginald Blackwood once, a name that echoed through frontier command halls and underground. Dueling rings stood beneath a rusted archway that welcomed travelers to New Helios. At 63, he wore his years well. Silver hair slicked back with care, eyes sharp and shrewd beneath elegant brows, and his crimson leather doublet gleamed like fresh blood in the dim light of this backwater colony. The coat was out of place here, too clean, too regal like a lord dragging his velvet hem through a gutter. He muttered a curse under his breath as he navigated through the grime-caked streets. The ship's hyperdrive had given out mid-transit, and the local mechanic, gaps in his smile and oil in his ears, had delivered the cheerful news. 3 days minimum, maybe 5. Reginald had half a mind to teach the man a lesson, but he'd retired from that sort of thing, supposedly. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since the shipboard breakfast, something reconstituted, tasteless, and cold. Ahead, a flickering neon sign buzzed with the letters, MTO's Tavern. It leaned like it was too drunk to stand, much like the man slumped beneath it. Reginald adjusted his gloves, muttering, "Any port in a storm," and stepped inside. The tavern was dim and sour. The lights were greasy with smoke, and every table hosted a pair of sullen eyes, too tired or too drunk to care who'd walked in. Reginald crossed to the bar with the practiced stride of a man who'd once commanded fleets, but now preferred quiet halls and loyal staff. Behind the counter, a leathery-skinned humanoid wiped a glass with something that might have once been a rag. He squinted at Reginald like one might a sudden tax audit. "What'll it be, fancy man?" "Whatever passes for whiskey," Reginald replied, placing a gleaming credit chip on the stained bar. "And information. I'm in need of temporary help. My assistant retired unexpectedly." The barkeep snorted. "Household staff? On New Helios? You'd be lucky to find someone who doesn't steal your kidneys in your sleep." Then his gaze slid sideways, toward a corner of the room. Reginald followed it. She was on her knees, scrubbing the warped wooden floor with a brush so frayed it was more hope than tulle. Her skin was the color of a summer storm, shimmering blue with undertones of silver. Her hair hung in tangled sheets down her back, and her dress looked like it had survived a war and lost. She didn't look up until a coin clattered nearer. Then, briefly, he saw her face, not just alien, not just young, but broken. Her smile, a reflex trained into compliance, revealed a gap where teeth should have been. Several. Her lips trembled as she bowed her head again. "Cerulean," the barkeep said, voice low. "Got her in a card game. Pretty thing, if you don't mind the silence. Useless, though. Doesn't speak much. Can't even string a sentence. And those teeth? Gone. Discipline, they say." Reginald's knuckles whitened around the glass. "How much?" 10,000. 3. Reginald snapped. The barkeep grinned, teeth like broken glass. 5. Final offer. A moment later, the contract was transferred. A cold screen, a thumbprint, a life traded like livestock. The girl stood before him, head down, hands trembling. Reginald softened his voice. "What's your name?" No answer. He crouched slightly, tilting his head. "Do you understand me?" A nod. "Can you speak?" Another nod, hesitant. "Then tell me your name." "Tyr," she whispered. Her voice was music strung through wire. "I am Lord Reginald Blackwood," he said gently. "I've purchased your contract, but not to own you." She looked up at him then, eyes wide and ice blue. They were filled with confusion. "And something older, something buried, to help," he finished. "Because no one else was going to." "Why?" She faltered, as if the sentence hurt to form. "Why, you kind to Tyr?" He hesitated, then said the only truth that mattered, because no one else was. Outside, as the dusty streets swallowed their footsteps, Reginald felt the gaze of the barkeep burrowing into his back like a warning, but he didn't regret it. He COULDN single quotes T, because when he glanced at the girl beside him, frail, filthy, but still standing, he saw something he hadn't seen in years. 'Cause worth fighting for. Asterisk, the door to the hotel suite hissed shut behind them with a soft hydraulic sigh, sealing out the noise and rot of New Helios. For Reginald Blackwood, it was a modest space, 3 rooms, plastisteel furnishings, a view of rust-streaked walls and neon slums. But to the girl standing in the threshold, it might as well have been a palace. Tyr lingered in the entryway, like she expected to be punished for stepping on the carpet. Her bare feet hovered just above its surface, uncertain, trembling. Reginald watched her for a moment, then stepped forward and gently took her wrist, guiding her inside. "You're safe here," he said, carefully enunciating each word. "No one will harm you." She looked at him then, truly looked, as if trying to decide if he was real or just another cruel dream in the long chain of nightmares she'd endured. Her eyes, the color of frost beneath stars, shimmered in the filtered light. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. "I want to help," he said again, softer now. "No chains, no orders, just a place to rest." Her gaze dropped to the carpet, and then, as if testing gravity itself, she stepped forward. Her toes sank into the soft weave. She inhaled sharply, eyes going wide. Then, for a brief moment, she smiled small, raw, unsure. It was the most beautiful thing he'd seen in years. Reginald removed his coat and draped it over a nearby chair. Beneath it, his white linen shirt clung to a frame still solid with muscle. He wasn't young anymore, but years of fencing and war had left their imprint. He ran a hand through his silver hair and gestured toward the adjoining room. "There's a shower in there," he explained. "Water, hot and cold. It'll clean you." Tyr blinked. "Water?" She repeated. The word dripped from her tongue, like it was sacred. Double quotes. "Yes, real water." He walked with her to the bathroom door, opened it, and showed her the control panel. The sonic shower units in his estate were more sophisticated, but this would suffice. When the first spray of warm water hissed from the showerhead, Tyr recoiled slightly, then crept closer, eyes wide in disbelief. Steam curled into the air like a ghost. "You can wash here," he said. "I'll find clothes." Her hand shot out and caught his wrist. For such a frail thing, her grip was shockingly strong. "Stay," she said, eyes locking with his. "Tyr, help." Reginald's pulse quickened. "That wouldn't be appropriate." "Why?" she asked, tilting her head. "Tyr help clean. Is custom. Bonding." He cleared his throat. "Well, humans bond differently. And where I'm from, bathing together isn't done unless—" He trailed off. "Unless what?" He met her eyes. "Unless we're very close." She studied him, curiosity replacing fear for the first time. Human ways, strange. "That? They are," he admitted. "Take your time. I'll be nearby." He closed the door behind him, exhaling hard. He hadn't expected her touch to linger so long on his skin, or for the innocence in her voice to cut so deeply into the armor he'd worn for decades. She wasn't trying to seduce him. She wasn't manipulating. She simply didn't understand the world he came from. And that made her vulnerability even more dangerous to both of them. He ordered food, found a clean robe in the suite's cabinet, and laid out a medkit. When the bathroom door opened, he nearly dropped the scanner. Tyrian emerged wrapped in a white robe several sizes too large. cinched awkwardly at her waist with a strip of towel. Her silver hair hung damp down her back, now free of knots and grime. Her skin, once dulled by filth, glowed faintly under the lights. She looked like some myth reborn. "Better?" she asked, her voice small but musical. Reginald cleared his throat, averting his eyes slightly. "Much. Come, sit. Food will be here soon." She obeyed, settling carefully into a chair, her hands folded in her lap like she feared breaking something. He activated the med scanner and ran it gently along her arms and torso, noting healed fractures, malnutrition, and extensive dental trauma. "Your teeth," he murmured. "What happened?" Her hand shot to her mouth instinctively. "Punishment," she said. "Mordo say, Tyr talk too much. Take teeth. So Tyr not speak." Reginald's hands clenched the scanner. "That's barbaric," she shrugged. "Is normal for slaves." "Not anymore," he said firmly. "Not for you." She watched him for a long moment and whispered, "You? Not like other masters." "I'm not your master." "Then what?" He considered the question, surprised to find he didn't have an answer. "A friend, perhaps, for now. If you'll let me be." She tilted her head. "Tyr choose?" "Yes," he said. "That's the point." Her eyes softened. "Then Tyr choose to stay." A chime signaled the arrival of food. As Reginald rose to retrieve it, he realized her. Answer had stirred something in his chest. Not duty, not pity. Something else. Something dangerously close to hope. Asterisk. The meal was simple by Reginald's standard synth-grilled meat, steamed vegetables, protein cakes, and a sampler of starches, all delivered by a hovering tray unit that beeped once and promptly fled back down the corridor. Still to Tyrion. It might as well have been a banquet from legend. She approached the table cautiously, sniffing each item with suspicion and wonder. Reginald waited, seated with hands folded, watching her reactions rather than the food itself. Her eyes darted. To him, "This safe for Tyr?" "I believe so," he replied. "Cheruans are omnivores, correct?" She nodded slowly and reached for a slice of grilled meat. Her fingers trembled slightly as she brought it to her mouth. One bite careful, testing, then another. Her eyes widened. "Good," she whispered, chewing slowly. "So good." Reginald allowed himself a small smile. Food should be both nourishment and pleasure. She looked up. Cheruan food is function. Tasteless, rationed. A crime in itself, he said dryly. They ate together in silence, broken only by the soft sound of chewing and the occasional delighted hum from Tyrion as she sampled each dish. She took nothing for granted, not a morsel wasted. It wasn't greed. It was reverence, a quiet celebration of something denied for too long. Her silver hair had dried into soft waves that framed her angular face. Without the grime and terror, Reginald could begin to see her properly, not just as a wounded creature, but as a young woman. There was a subtle symmetry to her features, an ethereal glow beneath her skin that caught the light in a way that reminded him of frozen moonlight on snow. And yet those missing teeth, the occasional flinch, the way her eyes flicked toward the door every few minutes, they told a different story. The story of someone still waiting for the whip to fall. After the meal, Reginald cleared the table himself and returned with a med scanner. "I'd like to run a deeper scan," he said, "just to assess injuries. Would that be all right?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Tyr trusts." The words were simple, but they landed heavy. He knelt beside her, running the device over her limbs and spine, pausing each time he saw something that didn't belong. Healed fractures, stress scarring, bruises in early stages of fading. When he reached her jawline, she instinctively turned away. "You're safe," he murmured. "I won't hurt you." "Tyr knows," she said quietly. But her eyes stayed distant. The scan beeped. Reginald frowned, adjusting the display. Curious. What? She asked, sensing his shift in tone. Your dental architecture. It's not just trauma. There's something beneath the gum line. Receptor nodes. Secondary neural fibers. She stared at him blankly. These weren't just for chewing, he explained. Your teeth, they were part of something else. Chiruan nobles had special biology? Her mouth opened slightly in confusion, then slowly closed. A silence stretched between them. My people have bonds, she said at last. Mental, emotional, through receptors. Not all. Only royal. Reginald's brow furrowed. You're saying you're? But she stood and backed away, clutching her robe to her chest. Not important. Tyr is no one now. He rose, gently but firmly. Tyr, that's not true. If you're of royal blood, then what was done to you is even more monstrous. It means. Vexler hunt more, she interrupted. Her accent thickened again. Means no safety. Means danger for all. Tyr hide for years. No one care. He stepped closer. I care. That stopped her. She looked up, eyes shining. And I have the means to protect you, he added. The silence stretched again. A moment later, her hand moved to the neckline of her robe and dipped beneath the fabric. She retrieved a thin chain, almost invisible, and pulled free a small pendant, an oval blue gem set in silver, etched with ancient runes. This proof, she said softly. Tyr was Princess Tyrian Sora, daughter of Theon. Reginald stared. He had studied the Chiruan Wars, knew the names of fallen dynasties. Theon had ruled before the Vexler swept in. His entire line was said to have been exterminated. I thought your family was dead. All but Tyr. Guard smuggled. Child out. Hide her. But Vexler find. Kill guard, sell child. Slave since. His voice came out quieter than he expected. How old were you? 5 standard years. Something cold settled in Reginald's chest. A child born of royalty, robbed of her name, reduced to a floor scrubber in a slaver's card game. He sat down heavily. You're more than just a survivor, Tyrion. You're living history. And they're still looking for you, aren't they? She nodded. Because of blood. Old tech. Locked by royal DNA. Vexler won't it. Use it. Reginald's mind raced. And now they know you're here. I think yes, she whispered. Pendant emits signal. I forget. Forgot danger. Tyr foolish. No, he said firmly. You're not foolish. You're brave. Brave enough to survive when no one should have. Brave enough to trust me. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Reginald knew. This wasn't just a rescue anymore, it was a war. One he hadn't planned on fighting, but one he would see through to the end. Asterisk. The alley stank of oxidized copper and melting refuse. Reginald moved. Swiftly, keeping to the shadows as the dull orange light of New Helios's twin moons carved long, warped silhouettes along the industrial walls. In his breast pocket, Tyrion's pendant pulsed faintly, an encoded signal disguised as jewelry, now a beacon for hunters, far worse than slavers. He had dropped the pendant once already into a local hauler's cargo bay, but something told him it wouldn't be enough. The Vexler weren't just tracking coordinates. They were tracking her blood. Elsewhere in the colony, Tyrion was weaving through a bustling market, wrapped in a borrowed cloak. She'd insisted on the separation, her. Voice firm despite its quietness. Vexler scanned for 2. Tyr alone easier to hide. Reginald had reluctantly agreed, placing a small conduit beneath her ear. She could reach him with one word. Still, being apart set his teeth on edge. A crackle broke the silence in his ear. Static, in her voice. Reginald, Tiersea. Watcher. En roof, he scanned. His blood turned cold. Do they see you? No, yet, Tyr go around. Reginald adjusted his course immediately, doubling back and cutting through a cluster of flickering signage and silent shops. He passed a shuttered apothecary, a ruined laundromat, and 3 sleeping vagrants curled under glowing exhaust vents. He pressed 2 fingers to his wrist scanner. No nearby life signatures. Good dot, but then movement. A shadow shifted across the alley mouth ahead. Not random. Intentional. Tracking dot, Reginald backed against the wall, slid his pulse pistol from his coat, and steadied his breathing. 30 seconds later, a tall figure emerged, reptilian, cloaked, head turning with mechanical precision. A draconian. Not just any bounty hunter. Vexler Retrieval Class. Reginald recognized the bearing instantly. These weren't blunt instruments. They were surgical. He'd once seen a Vexler Retrieval squad storm a rebel fortress in 12 minutes and walk out with 24 sedated specimens and 0 casualties. He stayed still, watching the draconian move on. When the coast was clear, he whispered, "Into the come, change of plan. Meet me at Point Delta. Now." Understood. 10 minutes later, they converged behind a rusted out-ore refinery, breathing hard, eyes scanning. Tyrion's hood slipped slightly, revealing her silver hair. Reginald gently pulled it back down. "You all right?" he asked Doc. She nodded. "Tyr. Sense 3 more. I know. They're closing in faster than expected." He glanced down at her abdomen instinctively. She wasn't showing yet, but the knowledge of what grew inside her added a cold pressure to his chest. "They're not just here for you anymore," he murmured. "They want what you carry." Tyrion's hand drifted protectively to her belly. "Child of both," she whispered. "Rare, dangerous, miracle. They had to disappear tonight." Reginald tapped into his wrist pad and sent a coded signal on a private frequency. Moments later, a grizzled face appeared on the hollow feed. "Hector Alvarez," the man drawled. "Didn't think I'd hear from you again. I need extraction. 2 passengers, no questions." Alvarez's grin was a row of crooked teeth and hidden knives. "Midnight runner'll be over your sky in 12 hours. But Reg, I know, price doubled." "I'll pay it." "Coordinates? Sending now?" Reginald cut the feed. Tyrion was staring at him, wide-eyed. "Friend?" she asked. "A dangerous one, but loyal." Suddenly, Tyrion stiffened. Her fingers gripped his coat. "Too late," she whispered. They. Close. As if summoned, a bolt of searing plasma shattered the wall behind them. Reginald pulled her down, just as another sizzled through the night air, slamming into the crate beside them. Stone exploded. Sparks rained. Reginald rolled behind. A ventilation unit shielded Tyrion with his body and returned fire. The shot took a draconian in the shoulder. He snarled but didn't fall. "Tyr," he hissed, breath ragged. "Can you do it again?" "What you did before the bond." Her eyes widened. "Yes, temporary. Need contact. Now." He took her face in his hands. "Do it." She pressed her forehead to his. The world exploded in a burst of blue light thoughts, sensations, instincts melding. It was overwhelming and yet intimate. He felt her fear, her exhaustion, and her will. Gods, the strength of it. 3 hunters, her mind whispered. 1 left, others flank. Together they moved. Reginald shot where Tyrion guided. She anticipated the enemies before they emerged, her awareness like sonar. He felt his reflexes sharpened, his vision clearer. They were 2 minds in one current. 1 draconian dropped. Then another. 3rd one? Behind, Reginald spun 2. Late. The final hunter lunged with a vibro blade. But Tyrion was faster. She stepped in front of Reginald, palm outstretched, her skin glowing with a bioluminescent pulse. The blade never touched her. It bent liquefied as if meeting an invisible wall. The hunter froze, eyes wide in shock, and then fled. The moment broke. The bond dissolved. Reginald dropped to one knee, gasping from the release of their psychic link. Tyrion slumped into him. "You all right?" He managed. She nodded against his shoulder. "Drained. Worth it." He looked down at her, this beautiful, radiant creature who had once scrubbed tavern floors in silence. She was trembling, yes, but it wasn't from fear. It was power. They held each other there in the alley as the dust settled and silence returned. For now, they had survived, but Vexler would not stop. And neither. Reginald realized. Would he? Not until Tyrion was free. Not until their child was safe. Not until the galaxy knew the last Cerulean princess still breathed, and had chosen to fight. The midnight runner pierced the crimson-hazed sky over New Helios just past midnight, its hull veiled in a distortion field that rendered it a shimmering ghost above the rusted skyline. A sleek freighter with warship upgrades and no allegiance but coin and loyalty, it came in low and silent, too small to show on port radars, too fast for Vexler's ground drones to catch. Reginald watched from the shadows of the derelict processing plant on the edge of the industrial zone. Beside him, Tyrion crouched close, wrapped once again in her makeshift cloak. Her hand rested lightly on her belly now, not as a reflex, but with intent, protection, possession, a mother's claim. "Ship's early," she whispered. "That's a good thing," Reginald murmured, his pulse pistol warm beneath his coat. "It means Alvarez has more guns than excuses tonight." In the half-light of the loading platform, shadows moved, then resolved into humanoid figures. Protectorate soldiers, tan uniforms mottled with dust, moved in practiced coordination. Leading them was Hector Alvarez, tall and broad, and smiling like he'd just cheated death twice in a row. "Reginald Blackwood, you aging bastard," he said as they approached, slapping him on the shoulder. "Still stealing princesses in your retirement?" "I prefer rescuing." Alvarez's eyes flicked to Tyrion, pausing on her face, then her faintly glowing skin, then the protective curl of her hand. His grin faded. "So the stories are true." "She's more than what they say," Reginald said. "And she's pregnant." Tyrion bowed slightly. "Captain Alvarez," she said with quiet grace. He blinked. "She speaks better than half my crew already." "We need to leave," Reginald cut in. "Now, the Vexler are regrouping." "Already stirred the hornet's nest," Alvarez confirmed. "Took out a relay tower on the way in. But that won't slow them for long." A klaxon wailed in the distance. "Move!" Alvarez barked. "Get them aboard." They sprinted across the tarmac. Tyrion's cloak billowed behind her like the tattered remains of a royal banner. Reginald kept one hand on her back, the other gripping his pistol. Behind them, the factory exploded into light-bright search beams sweeping, loudspeakers barking. Orders in a dozen languages. As they ascended the ship's ramp, Tyrion stumbled. Reginald caught her instantly. "I'm fine," she gasped. "Just tired. Almost there," he murmured. "Just hold on." Inside, the midnight runner was all hum and heat and controlled chaos. Crew scrambled to stations. Shields activated. Engines spun to life. Reginald guided Tyrion to the medical bay, where a protectorate doctor scanned her vitals and confirmed what Tyrion already knew. The child was healthy and growing fast. "Cheruan royalty," the doctor murmured. "Their gestation cycle is efficient." Reginald watched Tyrion as she lay back, her eyes closed, her hands still protectively curled over her abdomen. She looked peaceful, but there was more steel in her than anyone could see. Later, in the quiet of a guest cabin, he sat beside her. The lights were dim. the hum of the ship a lullaby beneath their feet. Tyrion stirred and looked at him. "We did it. Not yet," he said, "but we've started." She sat up, brushed a lock of silver hair from her face. "I downloaded the full Vexler registry before we left." His eyes narrowed. "You what?" She retrieved a data drive. From her robe, small and smooth and humming faintly. Locations, names, 23 Sharuan survivors. Hidden, lost, like Tyr was. He stared, breathless. "You held on to this the whole time?" "Was plan," she said. "Let them take me." Open the system. Unlock the sealed data with Royal Genoprint. Reginald leaned back, stunned. "You used yourself as bait." She looked at him evenly. "For my people. For our child." He took her hand. "You should have told me. I needed you to act with heart," she said. "Not strategy." He gave a breathless chuckle. "I don't know whether to kiss you or scold you." She tilted her head. "You can try both." He did first the scolding, a soft protest against reckless sacrifice, then the kiss, slow and deep and full of unspoken gratitude. She kissed him back with heat and tenderness, the ship forgotten, the war paused. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Reginald, if something happens to me, don't. You must protect her." "I will, with everything I—" Her smile bloomed through exhaustion. "Then I'm not afraid." The stars outside the viewport turned slowly, and the midnight runner vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, New Helios burned. Ahead Avalon Prime, Sanctuary, and a mission far. Greater than survival. It was time to rebuild what the Vexler had tried to erase. It was time for a princess and a rogue to give birth to a legacy. Avalon Prime bloomed below them like a watercolor dream, rolling green hills, snow-capped mountains. In the far distance, and estates nestled within the golden valleys like scattered jewels. The midnight runner cut gracefully through the upper atmosphere before descending onto a private landing field shielded by cloaking fields and ancient Terran security towers. Reginald watched through the viewport in silence, his hand resting gently. Atop Tyrion's, she had changed. No longer the trembling servant girl who flinched at shadows. Tyrion now sat poised, shoulders squared, her silver hair braided and gleaming, her gown tailored to accommodate the gentle curve of her belly. Even tired from travel, she held herself like someone who had remembered what it meant to be royalty. The medical readings confirmed it. 2 weeks prior, their unborn child, Sharuan and human, was developing rapidly. Telepathic nodes forming, neural receptors blooming in utero. The hybrid would be strong, adaptive, and very likely the first of a new kind. "A beautiful world," Tyrion murmured, her eyes drinking in the landscape. "This is home?" He nodded. "It was once. I left it behind chasing things I thought mattered more. Gold, glory, war." He paused, voice quiet. "But it was always waiting." Tyrion turned to him, smile faint. "Then we make it new." The ship settled with a soft thud. Alvarez met them at the gangplank. His usual smirk softened. "Protectorates confirmed Vexler's collapse in the new Helios system," he reported. "And that director of theirs?" "Thal?" "Last seen being escorted into a black site interrogation." "Sel wouldn't want to be him." "None of us would," Reginald said grimly. "And the data Tyrion pulled?" Alvarez continued, glancing at her with a measure of awe. "Terran High Command has already opened searches for every surviving Sharuan on that list. We've got 5 confirmed extractions so far. More coming." Tyrion closed her eyes briefly, whispering a soft, melodic phrase in her native tongue. "Prayer?" Reginald asked as they descended the ramp together. "A promise," she replied, "that the lost will be found." Weeks passed. The Blackwood estate transformed. Where once Reginald had kept rooms empty and echoing with silence, Now, they were filled with soft light, warm voices, and the quiet rustle of new lives finding footing. 5 Chiruan survivors arrived, each scarred, each carrying a piece of the culture the Vexler had tried to bury. Tyrion met each of them personally, speaking to them not as a queen issuing commands, but as a sister welcoming family. Her natural gift, the bond, made her presence calming, grounding. Even those who had not known her lineage instinctively deferred to her. Reginald watched her in the garden one evening, barefoot in the grass, speaking softly to a young Chiruan boy who had not spoken since his rescue. She knelt before him, hands open, voice steady. And for the first time since arriving, the boy nodded. That night, as the twin moons rose, Reginald stood beside Tyrion on the marble terrace overlooking the western ridge. She leaned against him, visibly heavier now, her body radiant with the soft glow of late Chiruan pregnancy. "Any day now," she said softly. "You can feel it?" "Yes." She smiled. "She's ready?" "She?" Reginald turned to her. "You know?" Tyrion touched her temple. "Royal mothers always know." Reginald chuckled, brushing a hand over her hair. "And may the stars guide her kindly." She tilted her head, voice thoughtful. "I want to name her Alira. It means second dawn in Chiruan." He nodded, the name curling into his chest like warmth. "Perfect." Silence fell for a moment, comfortable, deep. Then Tyrion said, "Do you miss it? The adventure? The danger?" He considered it, looking out over the fire-lit valley below. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I've found something better." "What's that?" "A different kind of adventure." He turned and took her hands in his, settling. One over her swollen belly, one without chains. "For either of us." Their daughter kicked then firm, alive, impatient. They both laughed. It was the sound of the future. And far above them, in the stars that once held nothing but regret and memory, something new took root. A legacy born not of conquest, but of love freely given. A rogue's redemption. A princess's resurrection. And a child destined to bridge 2 worlds. Together, they had defied a galaxy built on ownership. Together, they had built a world without chains. Forever. Together. **the Andy.